So with Pierce now opting out, or I almost guess, he's a high risk player, so almost forced to opt out here. That's a massive blow, both literally and figuratively. Pierce was to replace Linval Joseph as Minnesota's nose tackle in the defense, and despite that not being a position that really, gets the numbers, it's a very, very important part of the defense the way this thing is structured. And the reason for that being is the nose will essentially allow both Kendricks and Barr to flow left and right just as linebackers. They can kind of shoot gaps. They don't have to deal with blockers. This is one reason why we saw Sheldon Richardson leave, because he wasn't a big enough body, and Shamar Stephen was next to Linval. But now we are losing the big body, so that becomes a problem. Now Shamar and Jaleel Johnson have both kind of played this spot under Zimmer a little bit, mostly as backups, and whenever they get into the game, we kind of see things get gashed a little bit. So I would prefer not to see them as the full-time nose, and I don't really think of them as suitable replacements for Michael Pierce or Linval Joseph, even though Linval was declining a little bit. But Michael Pierce has been one of the better nose tackles in the league since he kind of entered it. So definitely not a good replacement for that if you're trying to get near that level. So they just kind of get washed out of plays if there isn't a true nose on the field and they're asking to be the nose on the field. So thankfully with the opt-outs though, they get immediate cap relief. So Minnesota can go get a replacement if need be because, per over the cap, they now have $16 million in cap space, something that is more than enough to go get a player if they so want it to be a thing. And I have three guys I would assume would be on their radar. I'm going to start with Damata Pico from various teams, last with Denver. He is 36 years old, and he is the oldest option among the three. But the reason why he's here is he played this role in Zimmer's defense from 2008 to 2013 while he was with Cincinnati. And over that time frame, they averaged 4 yards per carry allowed during that just whole time frame. And that would have tied for 7th in the league last year, where Minnesota was actually 18th in that category in 2019. So that obviously needed to get better, and that kind of shows some of the regression we were seeing with Linval Joseph. And this would be nice in terms of familiarity. He doesn't need to learn the defense. He knows the defense. It's just kind of going back to his old thing. It's just, he's 36. So will he be super declining and just nothing close? Because there is a chance of that, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Once again, he's 36 in the trenches. So that might not be the best option, but familiarity and with all the COVID going around, something to consider. Now the second one is one you guys have probably all heard of. Damon Harrison, also goes by Snacks Harrison. So at 6'3", 350, he is the biggest of the three, but he only had 2 TFLs last season after averaging 6 from 2012 to 2018, which was, he was a rookie in 12, so the entirety of his career, he's averaged 6, he goes down to 12. His pressures from last year dropped from 9 to 2, and his Pro Football Focus grade was actually the lowest in his career. So, maybe not the player he once was at 31 years old, but I would still trust him to be better than a player like Jaleel Johnson or Shamar Stephen in that role, and kind of more of a, maybe not the best anymore, but certainly he's better than what we have, sort of thing. And I think one hope if Minnesota were to get him would be Andre Patterson would be working with him, a player that's had success like this. After all, you could convince yourself it's only one down season, and now Andre Patterson gets his hands on him, then maybe he goes something similar to what he was before. I don't know if that's the case. I have a lot of trust in Andre Patterson, but at the same time, I feel like if we got him and he played similar to 2019 as opposed to regressing more, I would take that as a win, given the fact that it looked like that was a pretty significant drop-off. And my last one is Marcel Darius. So he's about to turn 30, and he is the most impressive athlete on this, but he is coming off a core muscle surgery, off of IR. Excuse me. And he hasn't played 60% or more of the snaps since 2015, something Linval only failed to do twice under Mike Zimmer, which was 2015 and last season. So we might be asking the nose tackle to play a little bit more than he has as of recent years. And, if healthy, he is the most dynamic player that we could possibly acquire here. And the reason why I say that is he has the ability to go get the quarterback if asked. He hasn't been asked to do that in a very long time. But he does have 37.5 career sacks as a nose. This is a guy who's 330 pounds with nearly 40 career sacks. And even if you remember all the way back to his combine days, he did run a 4.93 at 319 pounds. So the guy is athletic if healthy, and he can be dynamic, and obviously he can stop the run. That's been his main role in recent years since he was, pretty much stopped being asked to do everything on the defense. But it becomes a very interesting option because Minnesota also has some interior rush player problems going on, where the hope really seems to be James Lynch, maybe Hercules Mataafa, maybe Jaleel Johnson or Armon Watts. There's a lot of maybes, but this guy at least has some form of success as an interior pass rusher, and he can also fill the role as Mike Zimmer's nose. So I think Darius, despite coming off the injury, is probably my top option if they are to add somebody, and just where they go from here on out after this Pierce opt-out, because this is kind of a big deal to the defense, bigger than some may realize, despite the fact he is literally the biggest player on the field that will not be there. And yeah, I would like to know your guys' comments, thoughts, opinions down below, and like and subscribing, super helpful, helps YouTube stuff, get recommended, all that, the channel. And until next time, I bid you all adieu.